All right, we are live a minute early. Hey, everybody, it is time for the preview for Barcelona versus Bayern Munich. I don't have any of the listener questions, but I do have some matchups I want to break down. And we have about 25 minutes to figure these things out. And I think we'll start with just the general vibes, not even the exact matchups and the tactics and stuff and permutation that we're going to get into. First, for a programming note, remember, this is just the preview here on the live stream on YouTube, going from 2:30 to 2:55, and then I get a little 5-minute break to get a little bit of water, and then 3 o'clock we're heading over to BigUp. Let me put that in the description down below, where you can find that again as always. So remember, Watchalong is on BigUp, where we're going to be playing with the tactics board, and where we're going to be able to again see in a little bit better detail the individual matchups and the score bug and all those different graphics that we have over on BigUp. So again, 3 o'clock, we're moving over to BigUp. Everybody as a community heading over there. And again, join me on BigUp for the actual watch along for the game. Now, for this preview, though, thanks for joining me here on YouTube. Here we are. So as far as the vibes, I think the big thing that I didn't even speak about on the last podcast, because it was a match review after Sevilla, so I didn't really talk too much about the feelings and vibes. I think this is, to this point, Bayern Munich does feel like that white whale for Barcelona in Europe, that they have to get over the demons against Bayern Munich. And not to say that 8-2 still exists. That was 4 years ago. That was a long time ago. But still, in Europe, it feels like Barcelona are in that second tier, and they're just not one of the favorites. Now, again, Bayern Munich have not won the Champions League in a few years either. They've had their own issues, sure, but it seems like there is a top class that you can win the Champions League, then it's a second group. And we know that here in the first phase that these results against the other giants don't really matter that much, but it does set a precedent. Even yesterday, Real Madrid, hate to talk about it, I did put myself through that game, and it felt like a good first half. Borussia Dortmund were up 2-0 on Real Madrid, but then here they come, 5 in the second half, and you get that feeling of Real Madrid in Europe. Barcelona used to have, I promise, that's why I'm wearing this jersey, the one when they won the Champions League last in 2015. So Barcelona used to have that feeling of inevitability in Europe. Of course, Lionel Messi was a huge part of that, but it doesn't feel like that again. All that's to say that right now, Bayern Munich is, as Bass, saying, is the litmus test on how far Barcelona can progress and how far the project of Barcelona has progressed. Now, you know that I say that 90 minutes against any opponent doesn't matter, and it doesn't say anything in the fall here, but the litmus test for the new Hansi Flick system and how much confidence people have in it here in October, in November, and December is this week. It is Bayern Munich, it is Real Madrid, and not even the final result, but how they play. And so jumping into the tactics here in the little matchups, again, I think the big picture vibes is that I am as not scared. There's a better way to say that, but I have the least amount of fear in Barcelona against Bayern Munich than I've had now in 4 years, at least going back to 8-2, and then prior to that. There is a confidence in the way that Barcelona are going to play. So even the final result, even if Barcelona lose this game 3-2 or 2-1, I don't think this game is going to be 1-0. I'll get into the reasons why in a second here, but for all the reasons I have confidence in Barcelona in this game, I think they're going to be on the level of Bayern Munich, even if the final score and result doesn't go their way. I predicted, now, of course, I didn't predict a red card for Eric Garcia against Monaco and losing that match, but I did predict that this would be a loss here against Bayern Munich at this point in this part of the season. So I did predict a loss here, but the way that Barcelona is playing, it doesn't feel like it should be a loss. The way Bayern Munich is playing on the other side, their fans are saying that it shouldn't be a loss either, because as much as Barcelona have taken like fish to water in Hansi Flick's system, it seems like Vincent Kompany, who people were questioning whether or not he was going to be able to go from a relegated side in the Premier League up to Bayern Munich and make that jump. Well, his team have kind of taken to water exactly as his system has gone too. If anything, the only thing that is standing in the way of Bayern Munich really being their best version of themselves is that some of their players aren't fit. Their regular double pivot or their regular pivot, because they do play in a double pivot. That's what it looks like, but they are much more inclined to play in a single pivot. And it usually is Pavlovic, but he is out today. So it's Paulinho, the Portuguese player, jumping in. and Kimmich is going to be the one farthest back in, I would say, kind of a pivot. And honestly, they're going to mirror each other quite a bit in kind of a 6, and that'll be Castado and Kimmich, and then kind of an 8, and that'll be Pedri and Paulinho, and then it'll be, a 10 in Fermin Lopez and Muller. And I think these two teams will very much look similar just in terms of where they're spatially on the field. But the buildup that these two teams have is actually very different. So let's dive into some of those big tactics. As I said, Kimmich, very much like Castado. Kimmich is going to drop in a little bit deeper, and very much like Castado, it's going to be shuffling it to Paulinho, or Muller will drop in. Or the difference with Bayern Munich and Barcelona is that for Barcelona, those fullbacks stay wide. Koundé stays wide. Yes, he steps in sometimes, but it's only when Lamine Yamal is the one who's gone completely wide, and they're merely looking for an underlap. But positionally, Koundé does stay very wide. Balde also stays very wide, and it'll be Rafinha coming into that half space and making those runs in behind. People I'm seeing are saying, why was it not Pablo Torre instead of Fermin Lopez? I think Fermin Lopez is a bit better on the press. He's gotten better at that from last season, and I think he's starting because Hansi Flick sees that he is fit. So any questions about his fitness? Dani Olmo is not fit. That's why he's not starting. As I had predicted, if Dani Olmo was fit, I think he would have been easily to start against Bayern Munich. He's played well against them in the past when he played for Leipzig. So I think for all confidence, he would have been the one to start, but he wasn't fit. So that's why Fermin Lopez gets a start. And believe it or not, I know that, Jonathan, you're saying that you feel like Fermin Lopez is more chaotic than Pablo Torre, but defensively, he's not. Offensively, it can be that way, but I think Fermin Lopez, we're almost underrating him now a little bit because he's been out, but I think Fermin Lopez was the right choice with who they would have had. Pablo Torre is also has the ability to come onto the field and potentially change some things there. Now, going back to the differences between Barcelona and Bayern Munich, Barcelona are going to play with wide fullbacks. Now, as the way I said that Kimmich is going to be the one to drop in deep, pushing into the middle is going to likely be Davies or Guerrero. And while the wingers, that being Gnabry and Lize, will stay wide, it's still likely going to be Davies and Guerrero to stay inside. And they could even potentially, on that high press that Bayern Munich plays, the difference with their high press is that Davies and Guerrero are just so active offensively that they can also run at the half spaces. And they'll, if it's not Gnabry staying wide and dropping in, if it's not Elise staying wide or dropping in, and then same thing, Muller will just kind of go where he needs to and drop way into the midfield and kind of, be one of the supports and ushering the metronomes as Bayern tried to take a lot of possession in the opponent's third. So do expect Davies and Guerrero to pop up in really dangerous spots that you don't see Balde and Koundé pop up in. Now, with all of that all-out attack and all-out high-risk, high-reward pressing that Bayern Munich do, it's very similar to the issues and fears that Barcelona fans and Kool-Aids have had for the high line that Barcelona plays. Because if you have fears about Barcelona's back line in that high line, and Inigo Martinez and Pau Garcia, and then again Balde and Koundé, just imagine if you're a Bayern Munich fan and your fullbacks are pushing even higher, and they're the ones making one of the half spaces. They're the ones who are really getting high on the wings there and leaving space in behind. A lot of times too, it'll be Upamecano who will be the one to step, and he'll be reactive. So while Lewandowski does not have the speed to go against Upamecano, I love the idea that Fermin Lopez is starting and Rafinha is back out there on the left wing. And with Eric Garcia out, I don't know what the other options were. Again, with Dani Olmo not fit, Gavi not fit enough, Frankie de Jong not fit enough to start in this match, and Ansu not really being the same level at the moment to be trusted against Bayern Munich to start this kind of match of this kind of magnitude. So I get why it's Fermin Lopez again starting, which I think most importantly, it's not even about Fermin more than it is about Rafinha being pushed wide, because that means that Rafinha is going to be able to come inside and play off of Lewandowski and hopefully get into 1v1 situations against Upamecano out in space on the break. And that is what you want to see, is that if Upamecano makes any little bit kind of mistake with a clearance by Barcelona, then Rafinha might be the one to find space out on the races. And then Upamecano's got to make up that space. And Barcelona, they've shown with Lamine Yamal and his ability to find a pass, just sensational, of course. I don't need to tell you that. Any bit of Lamine Yamal in 1v1 space now against the space that Bayern Munich does leave, which we saw against Aston Villa. Bayern Munich did leave space for Aston Villa. And now, imagine if Lamine Yamal had been able to have that space against Aston Villa, what that attack could have potentially done. So as good as Bayern Munich are, because if Bayern Munich keep Barcelona pinned back the way that Barcelona want to pin them back, Bayern Munich can break through that way. Their attackers are too good. Again, Kane can be clinical, exactly like Lewandowski, very similar in even the things that they're asked to do by these teams in the high press. And then Muller is Muller. You know who he is. And while he maybe has lost like half a step, I think that anything that he has lost in other games this season, he'll more than make him up for in how much he loves to play against Barcelona and that little bit of juice that he gets, trying to stick it to Barcelona and maybe his own coach. There are rumors that maybe Thomas Muller and Hansi Flick didn't completely get on really well. But again, that's also could be hearsay because Thomas Muller is kind of a personality and we don't know anything about that. Elise is, I'd say if I was going to circle one Bayern Munich player that I'm going to say I'm worried about here, it is Elise, because Balde might need help at times. And if Balde does get caught up field at certain circumstances, that is where Barcelona could be exposed in space. And Elise also has the ability to cause some havoc in behind. And in a 3v3 situation with Elise against Balde, I would be worried about how that is going to wind up resolving itself out. As I said before, Rafinha getting into the half space out on the counter is going to be essential for Barcelona today. To answer somebody's question, Ublaze, you said, hey, Dan, who do you think is going to be the MVP for Barcelona today? I tweeted out yesterday that it would not shock me if Barcelona win this game, I wind up in the 5 headlines saying that Marc Casado was the MVP. Because in terms of winning the second ball and being the team on the front foot, that is going to be essential today. Bayern Munich and Barcelona want to do the same thing. They want to press high. They want to play a high line. They want to turn the opponent over in their half of the field, and they want to continue to be vertical and take risks only in the opponent's half of the field going forward. And if Marc Casado can consistently win those balls against Paulinho, against Muller, even against Kimmich, and Pedri can support him in that and also win some 50-50s, then I think Barcelona have a really good shot in this game. So while Casado might not have the moment in the game, I think all the little tiny moments in between, if anybody watched the 5 headlines I did or with me on BigUp for the last match review against Sevilla, that little circle I called, or somebody can remind you what I called it, like that little circle of fun that Barcelona creates there in the middle of the field as they try to overload the midfield. Casado kind of sits there at the end of that little circle with Pedri, and it'll probably be, again, Lamine Yamal coming in from the right at times, or it'll be the Rafinha coming in from the left with Lewandowski just a bit in front of them. If that little circle there with Fermin Lopez, obviously, I think will be paramount to that as well. If Casado at the little edge of that circle, if he can continue to win those 50-50 balls as he did against Sevilla and as he has done in any of the big score lines that Barcelona have had this season, then again, I'm going to go away from this game saying, even though maybe he has a goal, great, but it's not about the goals for him. It's not about the assists for him. It's how well Barcelona are going to control this match. Because in Europe, against a team like Bayern Munich, control is paramount. And as we know, I have not felt like Barcelona have really had much control in Europe since 2018, right? Since Barcelona were the better side against Liverpool. Since the year before that, 2017, when Barcelona were the better side against Roma. Some other questions here. What happens when Frankie comes back? To that point, I'm not really too concerned about what happens when Frankie gets back. I'm going to say we're going to cross that bridge when we get there because there's still a lot of fixtures and there is no guarantee that everyone's going to be healthy week to week. And obviously, I don't hope that somebody gets hurt because obviously you'd rather have the headache of having too many good midfielders and too many players that need to start than losing some. But I think that having Frankie de Jong healthy, having Gavi healthy, Pedri healthy, Casado healthy, that does allow you to do more things. I mean, who's stopping Pedri from starting as the 10? Who is stopping Gavi from starting as a 10 in front of Frankie and Pedri, or maybe it's Gavi and Frankie and Casado and De Jong, or we don't know what the permutations are, but having everybody healthy is a better problem to have than to have players constantly injured and having to rotate them. When will Gavi come on? I think Gavi's going to come on in probably about the 78th minute. I think it'll be very similar to Sevilla, but I think he looks healthy enough to be on the field. I don't think they're worried about a relapse with him. So I think he's going to come on the field. That's going to be a good thing. Kool-Aid, to your point, no, you still have to watch the match separately. It is a watch along stream with me. Again, I have a tactics board and I've got a score bug and I've got some other fun stuff over there. And there's a link there again. I hope everybody who's watching this now can migrate with me. That would be a great help to get over there on BigUp. Remember, you don't have to sign up. You just jump into the hit that stream, and you can even pull up now and then be there for the watch along with me. Again, I'm going to be cutting this stream in about 10 minutes. And then you're going to give me 5 minutes, and then I'll be over there at 3 o'clock for the start of this game. So what else have we not talked about here in this preview? We haven't really talked about Lewandowski and Kane, but I don't really have to talk too much about Lewandowski. What he might be required to do today is what he did against Sevilla. And Sevilla were completely overwhelmed in the midfield in a way that Bayern Munich will not be today. That means that as good as Lewandowski was, and I think the reason why Barcelona scored 5 goals against Sevilla is because Lewandowski was so good technically with his back to goal, which isn't always the case and has not always been the case in Europe, especially for Lewandowski in the last few seasons. So if Lewandowski with his back to goal is technically sound today, if he's moving the ball quickly, if he's making good choices, especially if he's able to unlock something with some kind of one touch to move the ball on, to play Rafinha into that half space like we talked about, then that gives Barcelona a huge advantage if Lewandowski brings his boots today. Of course, if he scores a goal, if Barcelona get a PK and he winds up scoring a PK, whatever it is, if Lewandowski puts the ball in the back of the net, that's the bare minimum. So I think what we're expecting Lewandowski. But again, going back to the control, there are things that Lewandowski can do without scoring or an assist today that could put Barcelona on the front foot. In the same way, Kane is going to be asked to do the same things. It is very interesting to watch these two teams play and look at the ways in which they're so similar and the things that I think both teams are going to try to do today mirror one another. So Lewandowski is better at holding the ball up with his back to goal. If Lewandowski is a striker that is more clinical today, then it probably means Barcelona have won the match. And if Kane on the opposite side does the same thing, then Bayern Munich are likely on the front foot. It's very interesting the way these two teams mirror each other. Now, where the subs come in is, I think, where this game could get interesting. Again, we talked about it. We don't know Olmo's fitness. Did not play against Sevilla, so I don't think he can be relied on today. De Jong also did not play against Sevilla. Don't think he can be relied on today. I don't think this match is the level of Gerard Martin or Sergi Dominguez. I don't really expect to see them. I don't think we should see them today. Gerard Martin might come on with Barcelona in a lead because, yes, he still defensively can put in a good shift, but he'll have to contend with likely Kingsley Coman or Leroy Sané coming off the bench. Now, Leroy Sané has not been super clinical this season, but still in terms of playing against a high line, very, very dangerous. Leon Goretzka also available to come off the bench for Bayern Munich. Hasn't been, his best this season. Eric Dier will come will come on for Bayern if they have a lead or to get some more control. But if there's an injury to Kim or to Upamecano and they're forced to put Dier on at center back, that is going to be a big issue with their high line. And I've also noticed this season that when Dier does play, they do play a little bit deeper because he just doesn't have the foot speed that Upamecano or Kim have. Now, Kim, again, is more reactive, not the quickest, but still quick enough to get the job done for a Bayern Munich team that, again, likes to sit in to the opponent's half and likes to play that high line and keep the ball in. Konrad Laimer, we could also see him come there on as one of the substitutes of the fullback. So usually for Rafael Guerreiro, who has never been a 90-minute player, even in his time in Dortmund, even when he was just up and coming for Portugal. He's not really a 90-minute player because he does cover a lot of ground. Expect him to get forward a ton on that right side and trying to give Balde a difficult time. The good thing, I think, again, about Rafinha starting the left wing too, is that if Rafinha has a huge defensive day against Elise helping out Balde and against Guerreiro, again, Rafinha, I talked about him getting forward and in those half space a lot, but he's going to have to cover a lot of ground because offensively, he's going to have to help Barcelona in the half space, but he's also going to have to defend like heck and help Balde with Elise. So those are my concerns about Rafinha's work rate today, but it's not really a concern. Like, Rafinha has been up to the task all season this year, offensively and defensively with the work rate, which is why I've made the claim that while Lamine Yamal has been Barcelona's most important player because he attracts so much attention. And Barcelona would, I think, offensively look completely out of sorts without him. I think Barcelona's best player has been Rafinha. I think Hansi Flick has gotten the peak, the limit of what you could ask of a player like Rafinha, of the skill set he has in his late 20s now. Maybe not late 20s, but like mid to late. You get it what I'm saying. But at the age that he is at, Rafinha, in his later 20s, I think you are seeing his ceiling under Hansi Flick. And when you talk about extracting talent out of a player, Hansi Flick is extracting, like a wet rag. He is soaking as much talent out of Rafinha at the moment as he can get. And Marc Cossato is a similar case. As I said, when I made a prediction as who would even start if all the six were healthy, I didn't have Cossato in any of I had him starting against Sevilla, but I didn't have him starting against Bayern or against Real Madrid. And every step of the way this season, I've been completely wrong about Cossato from everything that I've seen since he was in the U16s, honestly, back with Xavi Simons when I was first watching Cossato. And there was a lot of competition in that midfield. And he kind of did take the place of Xavi Simons and pushed him to the sidelines at the U16 level. I kind of underestimated Cossato, and I've continued to do that. This is my mea culpa. I've continued to do that every step of the way in his career. Now my question for Cossato is this the level that he's at now? Or is this another case of Hansi Flick and Rafinha where Hansi Flick is getting the absolute ceiling out of Cossato? But again, he is only still, 21 years old? Give me a second. I want to check this. People can write it in the comments or anything. He's 21 years old. So he's still such a young player, and he just turned 21 in September. So I continue to underestimate Cossato at my own peril, which is a good thing. So as I said, he could be, if Barcelona win this match, I could very easily see myself saying that Cossato was my MVP because of the work rate and the balls that he's going to have to win. Other really important player today that we have yet to talk about, Inigo Martinez, of course, and Kubarsi. The reason I circle Kubarsi here is that Bayern Munich very rarely, when they do that high press and when they are consistently pushing the opposition back in their half of the field, they do not play against a ton of center backs that have the ball playing ability that Kubarsi has. Kubarsi, with one pass, can completely unbalance that Bayern Munich press. And if he is on his game today and those balls are hitting, and defensively he is contending with Kane, if defensively he is moving well with Muller, Kubarsi could be a big reason why Bayern also gets a positive result today. So I think we're almost at the time. We have 3 minutes left, so I think it's time to get into predictions, because the next time you hear from me, I'll on BigUp, which here in the chat, you can see the link. I put it in there, so join me over on BigUp. Again, we have the scoreboard, tactics board. You're going to watch the game on one screen, and you're going to join me on the other one, and you're going to have me in your ears as we talk through all the BigUp stuff. Remember, I'm a professional play-by-play commentator as well, so while I don't do a lot of play-by-play on this watch-along, if I need to, I will. So do trust me to be able to give you what you need on that stream, and you can again mute the big broadcast. As good as the professional commentators are. Again, they get paid big bucks for that stuff. So as far as predictions, let me see in the comments right now, real quick. What are your predictions here? I think that Bayern Munich, as good as they are, I think this could be the day. I think there is a feeling that I have. I've not woken up on a Bayern Munich Champions League day for 4 years now with any bit of optimism that the final result was going to go Barca's way. I think this is a 2-1 Barcelona win today. Really, honestly, I think this is a 2-1 Barcelona today. I think that the way they are playing perfectly suits Barcelona to get a positive result against a Bayern Munich team whose weaknesses, I think, do play into the hands of Barcelona. I think there's also a really easy chance for Bayern Munich to flip that script and it be 2-1 or 3-2 Bayern Munich. But I think this is going to be the closest Barcelona-Bayern Munich match that we have seen in quite some time. What was the last time they played a really close one? The 1996, 1994 season. Again, for the old hats in the chat, help me out there. But anyway, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of 2-1. I'm seeing a lot of 3-2. I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be not a goal fest, but I think goals are going to come. Both teams are going to be leaving space, and there are too many talented players. Elise, Lamine Yamal, Lewandowski, Kane, Muller, Gnabry, Rafinha, the way Pedri's playing. Like, there are too many guys who are putting the ball in the back of the net right now. 2015 semifinal, second leg, 3-2 Bayern. Of course, yeah. How did I not forget one of the most famous Messi plays ever when he tripped up Jerome Boateng, and Jerome Boateng lost his soul and was never the same. Well, he was fine for the next 2-3 years. But yes, the Messi against Bayern Munich how could I possibly forget that in 2015? I'm wearing the jersey. Like, what am I? Yeah. So thank you there, Pranav. Yeah. So while Barcelona had been better against Bayern Munich, I think here in this new decade from 2020 to now, yeah, I think that Barcelona, this is the best version we've seen in a while in Europe, and there are things to certainly prove. All right, that takes us to 255. Thanks everybody who was in here. We had like almost 100 people in here at present time. So if everybody could just hit that link on BigUp and move over there for the watch along. Again, I'm going to be having the tactics board. So things I'm talking about here, I'm going to be able to show you there on the screen over on BigUp. So yeah, and Zizo, please, before we leave, one suggestion. Go ahead. All eyes on you, because again, everyone's already migrating and the game is about to start. So it's time to yeah, it's time for Barcelona against Bayern Munich in a game that I think is going to be have a lot of highlights. And as we saw against Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund, these are long games. All right, so I'm going to jump over there now on Big Ups. So on Big Up, I should say, with that link, let me do it one more time. Bada bing, bada boom. These are about the news segment. Yes, I do the top 5 occasionally, the news segment. And when I think to do that, then I wind up doing it. So that is one of the things I do on the channel. It doesn't happen often, but I appreciate that. And yeah, if people join me on Big Up and I can continue to put more resources in the Barcelona podcast, then I'll do even more new stuff and I can dedicate more of my time to that. So again, if you want me to do more new stuff, join the Big Up over there, join the community, become a member. Again, it's free to do that. And then join me for the watch along where we're going to have some fun now. All right, I'm going to jump over there. Thanks so much for joining this live stream. I'm going to do this again for the Real Madrid El Clasico. I'm going to have this little preview stream. Then we're going to do the watch along on Saturday as well for Real Madrid. So this is a huge week, huge game. All right, everybody, Forza Barca. I'll see you over there in a second.